Well, one game has been decided, and we're halfway to knowing who will be the contestants in Super Bowl 53, which will be held on February the 3rd. The NFC Championship game was between the New Orleans Saints, who hosted the Los Angeles Rams. This is the second time the Saints have been in an NFC Championship game. The first time was, of course, back in 2009, when most of America was rooting for the Saints, clearly because of the fact that they were just a couple of years removed from the devastation, which was Katrina, which decimated New Orleans, decimated that area of the country, in particular Louisiana. Louisiana still isn't the same to this day because of Hurricane Katrina. And they went on to win the Super Bowl. Although I got to admit, against the Colts, but I got to admit, though, in the NFC Championship game that year, can't believe it was 9 years ago. Jesus. But in the NFC Championship game that year, I was rooting for Brett Favre and the Minnesota Vikings, man. And although Favre tends to get most of the criticism for the interception that he threw, got to remember that the Vikings had a lot of turnovers, man. A lot of fumbles. I remember Adrian Peterson fumbling the ball like at least 3 or 4 times in that game. And most of those fumbles came when he was in the red zone. So it's like, whatever. But the Saints came out firing in this game. In the first quarter, they were up, I believe, 13-0. And it looked possibly like the Saints were going to blow the Rams out. But in the second quarter, the Rams shut out the Saints 10-0. And then at halftime, the Rams found themselves only down by a field goal, 13-10. So you have to wonder how Saints fans felt with such a close score going into halftime. But then, of course, after the halftime, the Saints pulled ahead. The Saints came marching onward on the field with a 71-yard drive, which led to a TD score, which put them up 20-10. And then inevitably you were wondering, well, okay, is this when the Saints come and is this when the Saints are going to run away with it? But the Rams crawled their way back into this contest, and they tied the game up at 20-all. And then this is when controversy ensues. Controversy ensues when the Saints are in scoring position, and there is an obvious, I mean, to anybody watching the game, it was very obvious that there was a pass interference violation against Saints wide receiver Tommy Lee Lewis. But for some reason, the referees did not pull the flags out, and this came back to hurt the Saints, because they would have, most likely they would have scored a touchdown. But that gave the Rams a new lease on life, and ultimately they tied the game at 23-all by a 48-yard field goal by Greg Zuerlein. And Greg Zuerlein would go on to crush the hopes and dreams of Saints fans everywhere, because in overtime, Greg Zuerlein would nail a 57-yard field goal to give the Rams a 26-23 lead. Well, no, fuck lead, a 26-23 victory. And it sent the Rams to the Super Bowl. This is the first Super Bowl appearance by the Rams since 2000, I believe. They won it back in 99. I definitely remember the one from 99 because I wasn't able to watch that game. in '99, and I tried to, but I couldn't. And the reason why is because I remember the Tuesday before the Super Bowl, we had a blizzard where I live at. We had like, at the time I was living in Highland Park in Richmond, Virginia, and we had 15 inches of snow. Now, fast forward to Sunday, and most of the snow is still on the ground. Some of it had melted. We probably still had a good 7 inches of snow still on the ground. On top of that, we had an ice storm. So, around the time of the national anthem being played, or the Star Spangled Banner, whatever the hell it is they sing, we see transformers popping everywhere. Then all of a sudden we lost power. That was Sunday. And at that time, it was like, we didn't really have the internet like talked about it. So what I had to do was call this hotline number, man. It was 359-9400. It's like a sports betting hotline. And that was the only way I could think of to get scores. But, this is before we had smartphones. You can just click in, score, and find out not only the score, but who has the ball and where is that on the field and, whose territory. Before all of that shit, the only thing we had was 359-9400. In Richmond or the 804 area. And I wonder if that line's still even open now. Might be. But that's how I caught up with the score, and that's how I found out that the Titans came just a yard short of winning the Super Bowl. And the Rams won that game. And then the next game, of course, Super Bowl 2000, the Rams were cheated. Okay, I don't know why it's not talked about more, but the Rams were cheated against the Patriots, Spygate. The Patriots were spying on them and knew all of their fucking calls. That's why they was able to jump on every fucking call, every play, virtually every play in that Super Bowl the Rams called. The Patriots knew what was coming. But interestingly enough, though, as hard as it is to believe from anybody that looks at my videos, right? As hard as this is to believe, I actually was rooting for the Patriots in that Super Bowl. The reason why I was rooting for them is because at that time, save for the Broncos winning it in 97 and 98, there was a serious AFC drought with the Super Bowl. Like, the NFC was just kicking the AFC's ass. And yeah, the Patriots, were our rivals in the conference, but in the division. But I didn't think this shit was going to last for 20 years, you know what I'm saying? But I was rooting for him. And when Adam Vinatieri hit that 48-yard field goal, despite the pleas of John Madden, I was impressed and I was rooting for him, Most of America was rooting for him anyway. And, but that was a long time ago. Of course, now the Rams are no longer in St. Louis. They're in Los Angeles. And I'm pretty sure that most Rams fans out there are elated. And they have a shot. They're in the big dance, so they have a shot of winning it all, man. I think this would be, their second Super Bowl, if they were to win it. So, however, if you're a Saints fan, you have to be sick right now. You got to be sick, and you have to be very, very pissed off right now because you pretty much were a non-call. You're a call away from being in the Super Bowl. This is the first time that the Saints, under Drew Brees and Sean Payton, have lost a home playoff game. And this has to sting. This has to sting a lot, man. But tell me what you guys think about this game, man, between the Rams and the Saints, man. And what do you think the Rams' chances are of actually winning the Super Bowl?